Okay, Mr. Mayor, you're live. Uh, I don't have the questions from the previous meeting. Sorry.
Well, I'll ask them to send them again.
Yeah.
Yes. But you're live.
I'm live.
Mhm.
Yes, you are.
Okay.
Chanel.
Yeah.
Chanel.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm sorry for the link on our website and the link that some of you got from various places apparently wasn't working. So we've canceled that meeting, restarted the meeting, and we've the link on our website where it says agenda now works. And a number of you have gotten the link. And I see we have 7 attendees at the moment. However, some of you sent questions before, and those questions are gone. So please submit your questions again. I do have one question that was sent to me earlier today, and I'm going to start with that question. It comes from Catherine Korakis, former principal of Hempstead School. And her question, and I hope she's listening, I hope she's one of the 8 attendees. Her question had to do with a skate park for skateboarders in Hampstead. She's wondering if we had ever considered one and what can be done to try to get one. So the answer is yes, we have briefly talked about that. I don't remember how long ago. And our concern was accidents. We were concerned that people might hurt themselves. It's safer to use boards when you're skiing on those terrain parks because you're falling on snow. On hard concrete, we have concerns about that. Nevertheless, Catherine, if you want to get a petition or letter signed by several residents all saying that they would like a skate park in Hampstead, we'll certainly look into it. I know there are skate parks in various places around, but so far none in Hampstead. We'll be happy to look into it if we get enough requests. So if you know people, have them either send us emails, letters, or easier, I'll sign one petition or letter, and we will look into it. Okay, and now we're up to questions on that were sent in. We're at 9 attendees. Okay, the first question comes from Anonymous. On behalf of the residents of Belsize, the question is addressed to Mayor Steinberg and Cheryl regarding Belsize Circle. As you recall, there were contentious discussions regarding the plans for Belsize Circle that led to a meeting at Hampstead Pool last summer. The residents of Belsize left the meeting with a firm commitment to be consulted prior to the commencement of work. We noticed today markings and demarcation stakes in the ground and are curious to know when plans we show these unnecessary expenses to the residents of Hampstead. Just give me 1 second to and I'll be back with an answer to that. Okay, here's my wife Doris was in charge of computer beautification when that meeting was held, and plans were made in conjunction with what had been discussed with the residents. Basically, a path that goes through the park, winding path going straight across. Well, winding and straight. It goes from the pathway that goes from Eden to Belsize Circle, and then and then it ends, so you can cross the street and continue to Applewood Park and so on. But it's not a straight line, it's curvy because it looks better. There were supposed to be plantations beside the pathway, and that was basically it. Residents wanted lots of green space, and the agreement was fine. There will be lots of green space. The only beautification was going to be that. However, for reasons that basically because of a email that was sent from Councillor Edery to many people, not just the council, the Director General, the finance people, and others, which suggested that my wife may have inappropriately approved some large amount of money, I think 21,000 or something, either her or the chief consultant, Mala, who has designed these things. Of course, this was proven to be totally false. I want to make that clear. This was only after an external audit that Councillor Edery convicted. The audit made it very clear, while it's confidential, I can't go into the exact details, but I can certainly mention a few of the major points. One was that the chief volunteer had done an incredibly good job, because Hampstead, as many people know, has St. Florent, the highest level of beautification award in the province. Only 11 other towns in the entire province have it, and none on the island of Montreal. That is what the chief volunteer, otherwise known as my wife Doris, accomplished. Nevertheless, this email council was so vile and so wrong that my wife said, "That's it, I am stepping down." So she is no longer in charge of it. Plans that were done last year are supposed to be followed in every single green space in the town. Whether that is happening or not is a matter to be determined. But the plans were left, all the detailed plans, pictures, everything. And the town, under Public Works, is supposed to be executing this. That's the basic story. So I can't tell you what Public Works is doing. My wife is no longer involved, and I have to assume they're doing what they were instructed to do, which is to follow the plans. So what people were told last year is what should happen this year. And that's as much as I can say on that subject. Okay, now let me just get rid of that.
Can I, Mr. Mayor, is there a room for councillors to throw one item here or just a comment?
You mean a question?
No, I said, can I make a comment on your explanation or answer to the question?
Yes, of course. Yes.
Without going to what led to the Doris resigning from the position, I believe, and I am not going to that item, I think if we were properly organized, we should have continued the file one way or another, and to whatever was promised to the resident should have happened, regardless if Doris is there or somebody replaced Doris. I don't want to go to the item of why Doris is not there. Obviously, when she was there, the beautification was taken care. We all agree and we all know. All I'm saying is, if that it was promised to the resident, we should have proceeded with providing what was promised.
Yes, I agree with you, and that is the plan. And ultimately, our Director General, Richardson, is responsible for making sure that all the plans from last year are followed this year. In fact, I know he has sent a directive indicating there are to be absolutely no changes. The plans are to be followed. After that, it is Public Works under Eve, and under him Pino, and under him Tony, who are responsible for making sure that this is what happens. So yes, I agree with you. That's what's supposed to happen. If it doesn't happen, well, yeah, I'm trying to point out is many residents know that my wife was involved in this. They should also know that she isn't involved now, so she should not be blamed if certain things don't happen. They happened very well from 2008 to 2018, a decade when she was in charge of all this. And of course, just in case anyone doesn't know, not only was she not paid a penny, but she often used out-of-pocket money for various things herself. Okay, moving on. Yeah, okay, I just have a note from Catherine that she made it onto our meeting, but I've already given her the answer to that. Okay, and another one from her. Okay, thank you. So I presume she heard my response. I just have to get to the next question. Okay, I don't think that point. Okay. Okay, Anonymous Wisdom, they're talking about the question posed is about the current plans for the circle, not the investigation. The answer is the exact same plans that we discussed last year, and I was at the meeting too, are what's supposed to be executed. But nevertheless, I don't know what's actually going to happen because I'm not on top of that. And I mentioned the people who are responsible and are on top of it. If something goes wrong and it's not the right path and it's not the right flowers or whatever, certainly you can get in touch with me and let me know as soon as possible. And then I'll certainly be on top of it. But now I just have to assume that what was requested is being done. Anonymous, you haven't answered the question. Cheryl and yourself presented plans that were incomplete and a starting point. Okay.
Mayor
I don't
Steinberg,
know.
Mayor Steinberg, might I step in for a second?
Certainly.
Okay, so what the concern is for the residents around it is that the initial plan that was shown was a lot of flowers and they didn't want that. So basically what has come up is that we had decided at the end with everybody's approval that all we'll do is do a path between through the center of their garden with flowers just on the edge, which is what most of the residents wanted. That is where it's been left. There's nothing else that's going to be planned. There's no flowers the way we showed it. So it's just going to be a path to go through so people could go with their bicycles or walk, and flowers along the edge, which leaves a large amount of space for the children of the area to play on the grass. That's, I think, is the answer they're looking for.
Thank you. That is exactly how I recall the meeting as well. Okay, next question, anonymous again. Will something be done to remove the purple graffiti on the pole on the corner of Ellerdale and Queen Mary? Well, thank you. Now that we know about it, of course, we'll do something about it. Richard, you'll make sure that we do something about the purple graffiti on the pole at the corner of Ellerdale and Queen Mary?
Absolutely. I'll take note of it. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I get to the question. It's from anonymous, I presume the previous anonymous, and it says, absolutely, thank you, Councillor. And another anonymous weighs in with, you are correct. Okay, so it looks like the residents around Belsize and Cheryl's explanation was dead on. Okay, anonymous, not about your wife. This is a city, not a family business. My goodness, not to give credit to someone who has devoted all this time and effort and brought us to such a high level of beautification, which is recognized and appreciated by numerous residents in the town, because when I go for walks with my wife, people more often than not come up to her and not me and thank her for what she's done for the town in terms of beautification. It's incredibly popular, and I will mention it every chance I get. And this business about a family business is insulting, because it is not there's no money, no profit being made, no money whatsoever involved. And the allegations, as I mentioned previously, about something wrong going on, allegations that were absolutely found to be false, is also very unfortunate. But
Bill,
yes, I will mention.
Given that you keep mentioning my name, and I'm really trying to stay out of this, but my job as finance is to make sure that we have proper controls in place, and I don't want to take away from any of the work that Doris did, but there were no proper controls in place, or there were problematic controls in place, and the audit noted those. So don't start going on my case about, vile letters and everything was unsubstantiated, because that's not the case. It was not vile. It was clear, and council unanimously backed bringing in the auditors based on what I recommended. And the auditors didn't come back and say, hey, you're retarded. They said, hey, there are issues with controls, and you might not find controls that interesting or that important, but from a finance point of view, controls are important and they have to be followed. It's nothing to do with Doris. It has nothing to do with her heart being in the right place, and there's nothing to do with her doing a lot of volunteer work. It's just the boring stuff of running a town requires financial controls.
And Councillor Edery, if that was your only concern, you should have had the brains to bring it up quietly with, if you want the whole council, but no one beyond the council. Especially, I'm not finished. You'll get your chance again. In the meantime, allow me, thank you. Especially when you mention Doris and Mala by name in the context of inappropriately authorizing $21,000 in expenditures. And you eventually found out that it was Richard who authorized them. Had you done this quietly, you would have gotten.
Let's be clear.
You would have gotten the. Don't talk over me. You would have gotten the truth. The last councillor who talked over me ran for mayor and lost. Don't talk over me, whether you plan to run for mayor or not. Just don't talk over. That's your business. So as I'm saying, the proper procedure would have been to quietly do that, not in an email that went to the finance department, not in an email that dictated that effective immediately, these are the things that will be done, things that had none of your business whatsoever. And while you convinced the councillors to have an external auditors do the report, they found nothing inappropriate whatsoever, except they recommended that we should have somebody on staff, like a green foreman, who could approve these things so that Richard at his higher level wouldn't have to do it. But they acknowledged that Richard doing it at that level was perfectly acceptable. And so let's just be clear and leave no doubt in anyone's mind about what went on. As for a green foreman, we've been trying for years to get a green foreman. And I told council, and I reiterate, that we have to be prepared to pay a lot of money to get a green foreman. And I just spoke to Richard the other day about it again. And I said, we need a green foreman and we'll pay whatever we have to pay. Of course, council will have to agree to that. But in the meantime, we have lost the best free service we've ever had in this town. And that's the case. And it was lost because of your vile email, an email that lawyers have told us is actionable if we choose, or rather if my wife chooses to go that route. Right now, the email has not been made public, but I would advise you to stop trying to defend yourself, because what you did was indefensible. Indefensible. Okay, now we will move on.
No, I'm sorry.
Go on.
I was not looking to pick any fights with you, and I let you go on with the first time, and I just let it slide because I just wanted peace. But you cannot attack me in public, and you cannot attack me and say that what I did was wrong. At the end of the day, there was a PO. There was no PO on $32,000 payment. And when you say that Richard approved it, he approved it after the fact. He didn't approve it before the fact. And the way we usually do things is we approve something and then the work gets done. Not the work gets done, we get a $32,000 invoice and then we approve it after the fact. So it's not, there's nothing criminal. I've said it 1,000 times. There was nothing nefarious. There was nothing ill intent or bad intent on anybody's part, but there were a lack of controls. And it's my job to make sure that finance is controlled properly. That's it. If
okay, in that case,
that's not my business.
In that case, Councillor Edery, let me point out to you that you have been told, but choose to forget, that there are many cases where invoices and POs are approved after the fact, including for the external auditors that did that audit that you wanted, as one example. But
on the contrary, give a PO.
Secondly,
we give a PO. That's not the way it works. You know, that's not the way it works. You give a PO, and a PO has a particular amount. And if you happen to go over that amount because there's too much work or whatever, then you come back to the manager and the manager approves it if the person has spending authority. This never went out to a PO for $32,000. It came back and it was spent, and it was spent in a way that shouldn't have been done. And so it's not that somebody tried to steal any money, and it's not that anybody tried to do anything wrong, but at the end of the day, it wasn't done properly. And the important thing is to have proper controls. If people want to take that as a personal rebuke, okay, well, there's nothing I can do about that. But the fact of the matter is, the facts stand that you have to have real controls in place. And that's what finance is supposed to do. If you want me to close my eyes and say, hey, you know what, $32,000 gets, invoices for $32,000 or $20,000 or whatever come in whenever they want, and we just kind of pay them after the fact without having authorized them in advance, that's not the way business is done in this town.
Thank you very much for telling us how business should be done in the town and how, in fact, it is done in most situations. But I repeat, you know perfectly well that there are cases where it doesn't work that way, and nothing was done inappropriately. And for you to write an email to numerous people instead of only to the members of council, and for you to put in that email that you believe that either my wife Doris or Mala inappropriately caused this money to be spent, and furthermore should repay the money. Go read your email again, and don't try to tell me it was perfectly okay and all you were doing was pointing out a little control problem. Oh no,
Control problem.
you, Councillor Ethery, had no authority, you still have no authority, and didn't have authority over then to give directives to the members of council, the
I
members
did
of
not
finance.
give
You
directives to
do
members of
not have, and that's exactly what you did. And in a minute, if I can find it, I will read your email in public so that
Sure.
people can see what you said, because you're not going to twist the truth. So I may
I'm
find that
perfectly fine.
later,
I'm gonna make
and
my
if I
email
do,
public.
it'll
Please go
threat
ahead.
to you. Because I'm not letting this slide. You cannot go and say, effective immediately, you people on this email will do the following. Only I as a mayor can do it. You as a councillor cannot. We wasted another 5,000 having a lawyer come in and explain to us what a mayor can do and what councillors can do. And surely by then you should have known. And then we just recently had another external lawyer come in again because you wanted to know whether I could do some things. And you found out after 45 minutes of nonstop badgering that external lawyer, and all the members of council know it, they were all there and heard it. It still came out, I've done nothing wrong, my wife has done nothing wrong, and I will never let anyone imply or suggest anything of the kind. I'm about to read you, and Joe Goldenberg can print it in this newspaper, and then, Councillor Ethery, you can deal with the fallout.
That's fine.
Okay,
I'm sorry, but is this absolutely necessary? This is getting into personal rebukes here. Let's get back to the business of operating the town. I'm sorry, but this is just uncalled for.
Councillor Budning, if Councillor Ethery wants to apologize right now.
This is not a
he
apologize. This is not a
otherwise he will have to hang with his own words. Next time he should think
this is not a therapy
right.
session.
Mr. Mayor, let's go ahead, please. Enough is enough. Thank you. Let's go ahead with the agenda. Enough is enough. Thank you.
I noticed the dead silence on the part of council. All right, you'll
And
deal
further
with it.
There's no dead silence for me. Let's go forward, please.
Let's forward and
Sorry,
for the record.
Let's go
and let me
ahead
just-
with the council agenda or the questions or whatever, but let's proceed.
Very well, for now we'll proceed. Anonymous is back. Come back to the resident like you committed. You wasted money last year, not acceptable. Frankly, I haven't got a clue what you're talking about, Mr. or Ms. Anonymous.
Why are we accepting questions from anonymous?
We're not. If they write questions that make no sense, I can't
No,
answer
but
them.
why shouldn't the person identify themselves when they raise a question?
That's a good point. In every other council meeting question period on the island, people have to identify themselves.
Well, why not
I've been
with
very
Hempstead?
generous.
Why don't we
because
have
I've
that
been very-
rule as well?
If the councillors would like that rule effective next meeting, we will not accept any more anonymous
I
questions.
think that's a good idea.
Okay, other councillors? would
Person
you
should be
like to-
brave enough to raise a question. They should be brave enough to identify themselves.
I agree with you. That's 2 votes. Do we have some more votes from councillors? Are there any councillors who want people to identify themselves?
I agree with Council Schaefer. I think that people should identify themselves.
Okay, that makes 3 of us. Do I have a 4th? Am I to assume that the silence from councillors Goldmax, Budning, Elfassi,
So-
and Ethery don't
there's
want
no,
people to
no, I do not
identify
want,
themselves?
No, there's no silence from me. I don't want it. It also gives the opportunity for somebody to ask a question without fear of retribution. People do that when they go to the rental board. People do that when they call Service Canada. People do that when they call Revenue Quebec. There is ways to make requests or call, and you're anonymous without divulging information, so that complaints, questions, or suggestions can be answered. People sometimes don't like the limelight. Some people don't like fear of retribution. So no, I will allow questions for anonymous. I fully agree that everybody's voices should be heard, whether you say it, who you are or not. When people
You don't
are
even know,
Hold on, Mr. Schaefer, 1
Councillor
second.
Goldwax.
Let me finish, please. When people are walking around downtown protesting and their masks are covered and their faces are covered, they're all anonymous, but they have the right to say and do something. So residents, whether they're tenants, whether they're homeowners, whether it's anybody, they have the right to ask a question. And if they want to choose to be anonymous, they could be anonymous. Like I said, some people don't like the limelight. Some people are fear of some retribution. And some people just don't want to be bothered about typing in their name. So automatically, by default, it logs in as anonymous.
Save and accept that when someone is anonymous, you don't even know if the person is a resident.
It doesn't matter.
Yes, it
doesn't
does.
matter.
If the person
Why?
is not a resident, then that
And
person
if,
doesn't
and if
have the
the
same
mother, if
interest
the mother
in
of a
answering.
resident chooses to ask a question, she's not allowed?
I can
Please.
tell you very well that there's many municipalities that people have to identify themselves.
Oh,
know that yourself.
We're a shtetl of 8,000 people, 2,000 and some odd homes. Honestly, we're not the city of Montreal. That's my
Doesn't
point.
matter.
No, we're not Bay Durfee with 3,000 people, or Montreal West with 5,000 people, or any of the half the municipalities, the merged suburbs with less people than Hampstead does. No, that's really not it. And our bylaw requires at regular meetings, when people used to come and we had live meetings, people had to identify themselves, name and address. Now, I've been very generous. I've allowed anonymous questions, but I know that there is no other town, no suburb, no demerged municipality on the town that accepts anonymous questions. In one case reported in the Suburban, somebody wanted to use just an initial in the last name, and that wasn't even accepted by the mayor. So, no, we're very, very liberal here. But now Councillor Schaefer is said people should identify themselves. Councillor Wiggensberg agrees. I agree. And I haven't heard from 3 councillors yet. I think
I will.
Okay, I thank you. Goldwax
You want
for
to hear from me, Mr.
expressing-
Mayor?
Yep.
Yeah. Do you hear me, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, I can.
Well,
I
if you
can.
want my position, I thought that you were very comfortable to accept question from your anonymous up until now, and all of a sudden something changed. Can I get more information? Why now is changed? Because I'm totally independent. I have no issue. I am the most transparent. Everybody knows my opinion from the get-go. So what is that changes now from your position from before? That's all if you convince me, I will give you my vote on that. I have absolutely no reason not to.
Okay, Councillor Alfasi, very simple. Up until now, nobody had questioned this amongst council. Councillor Schaefer just said, I think people should give their names and shouldn't be anonymous. Councillor Wiggensberg agreed with it. I agree with it. So if you agree with it.
I heard Goldwax giving the argument why it merited to keep people anonymous. So
Yeah.
if you can give me one more argument, I heard everything you said. Give me one more argument and I'll give you my vote.
Because people should be afraid to, if they want to say something, first of all, when you have anonymous, you don't even know how many people. It could be one anonymous person asking repeated questions over and over and over. Second of all, if people want to be anonymous and yet raise an issue, 16 years I've been mayor. Numerous people write to me about this issue or that issue, and I always protect their anonymity. Always. I often forward emails, but I remove all traces of the person who sent me the original email. I believe in protecting people who identify whatever issue. I have no problem with that. But when you have this anonymous business, it doesn't matter whether they're residents or not, but it does matter that we have some ideas of the same person asking the same types of questions over and over and over. You know, in other towns, you can't even ask more than 3 questions on the same topic, different people or not. That's the way it works. Here, fine. There are towns that have only 1 question period. Here we have 2 question periods. Really, our bylaw already says you have to identify it. But when half the council tells me they want it, yeah, we will start requiring it next meeting. So Councillor Fassi, if I do, let me know, and that'll be that.
Well, I tell you what, because I really have a lot of respect from what Michael Goldwax presented before. And I can relate to that. To be honest with you, up until today, I didn't see what Michael was saying until he just talked about all what's going on. So to me, quite honestly, I was not comfortable with all this anonymous. But after I hear what Michael said and other argument that can come up, it makes sense to me that I don't care. I mean, we're here. If you see a question that you're not comfortable with, just put it in a bin. Don't even answer it. I think you should, if there is a question that you can answer, answer. Otherwise, just put it in the bin.
Well, I do that.
Thank you,
Do
Councillor
Councillor Budning and Ed want to say something? No, I guess, yes?
No, that's fine. I basically, the question, in the previous iteration of our meetings, when they were public, it was impossible to be anonymous because you had to stand up and go to a microphone. And so you couldn't be anonymous. So, but now that we have this kind of meeting, I have no problem with somebody who feels they have a need to be anonymous. I don't see any downside to it. So personally, I have no major, I have no reason to require somebody to identify themselves unless somebody can give me a reason why, as opposed to one in theory should never be afraid.
Respectfully, it's a moot point because anybody could just put in any name. So if you're going to require people to put names, they could just put John Smith and that'll be that.
I don't see a reason to invalidate a question because the person does not want to identify themselves.
Okay, fine. You've all weighed in, so I'm afraid we're going to continue with anonymous questions. It really doesn't bother me one way or the other, although I do agree people shouldn't be afraid to put their names down. Anyway, moving right along, anonymous again, Mr. or Ms. Anonymous. A different topic. 1 second. Might we know when electronic online reservations for tennis will be available? Such a system has been used for a number of years at Jarry Park. Excellent question. Unlike Montreal, our IT department, it consists of 1 person. Nevertheless, the answer is July. We're expecting to have our online reservation system in July. Right now, it's already better than it used to be. For both pool and tennis, once things are entered, they're entered into a system and everybody can see it. So we've already moved 1 step in that direction. We now have just 1 more step to go, and that is letting residents log in and book their times for tennis, and I think probably for pool may be coming as well. Okay, Leona Fassi.
I was just replying to that question.
Okay. All right, which I see you've said more or less what I said. We're a couple of weeks away from having booking online. We're in a testing period, so I thank you for that addition. Okay, let me see. A comment from Mr. or Ms. Anonymous. This meeting is an embarrassment to our community. Thank you for your comment. Anonymous again, okay, I will read this. I don't want to change the English, so I'm going to read it exactly as it's typed. What is the process to have the mayor removed from office? There's an election on November 7th. And if the majority of residents in the town vote for someone else who stands for election, that person will take over as mayor. That is the process. That is the only process, other than if I myself decide to resign. I don't think that'll happen. Or if I miss 90 consecutive days without attending a council meeting and then don't show up for the next council meeting, I will automatically lose my job as mayor. And as far as I can see, that's really every possibility, but I'm happy to answer that question for you. And now, let me guess, it's anonymous again. Please post this meeting on the Facebook page so the city residents bear witness to the manner in which the mayor speaks to the councillors. Shameful, completely, Mr. Mayor, you're out of turn. Why do I think I know who all these anonymous people are? Thank you for your comment. If the mayor was even, do I have to bother? Anonymous. If the mayor was even-handed, there would be no need for anonymous. Well, as I've mentioned, I've dealt with, I can't tell you how many different issues and problems from residents, and everybody was treated exactly the same way, including some residents that I know are not on my side. Every resident gets treated exactly the same, fair, even-handed way, I can assure you. Okay. Okay, this one is not anonymous. It is from L. By the way, the question about Belsize Circle is from Larry Rinsler. Catherine, again, my goodness, this is difficult to watch. In live meetings, people identify themselves, which I gather is a suggestion that people should. Well, you know, I agree, but I will follow the dictates of the majority of count. Anonymous, thank you, moderator, for answering my question on tennis reservations. Good news. Okay, and on that, we have wrapped up question period. And I know that some attendees, and we're up to 13 attendees, perhaps want to go watch the hockey game. I'm not encouraging you to do so, but I'm just saying that is taking place. Okay. So we're on item 3.0 on motion of councillor.
Budning.
I'm sorry, Budning, seconded by councillor
Goldwax.
Goldwax. It is resolved to amend the agenda as proposed in order to add thereto the following item, 7.9, approval of the payment for the renewal of the Town of Hampstead's liability insurance portfolio for the year 2021-2022. Anyone opposed? Okay, nobody opposed. 3.1, adoption of the amended agenda on motion of councillor
Goldwax.
Goldwax, seconded by councillor Budning. It is resolved that the agenda of the regular council meeting is hereby adopted as amended. Anyone opposed? And that brings us to the departmental monthly reports. And we'll start with community services.
Mr. Mayor, if I could just make a quick comment. I just want to apologize in advance. My camera, my internet connection is not great, so I may be turning my camera off to try and get streaming of audio. So I apologize if the residents can't see me all the time.
Okay, you're a little dark, but that's fine. And I know you can hear us, so it's good. So Councillor Wiggensberg, Community Services.
Good evening, everybody. It's nice to be here again. I hope everybody is staying safe and enjoying the nice weather and getting out. I hope everybody who can't get vaccinated is getting vaccinated. And let's hope things start getting better slowly, especially as the summer comes. So basically, there are a few things that are coming up. There's still, because of COVID, we're still very slow on starting things to make sure that we follow everything the government is suggesting. Right now, on July 11th, we're planning to do a cupcake bath bombs in the park at 10:30 a.m. And then we're also planning to do art in the park on Tuesday nights. It's a free art program in Hampstead Park. It will be at 6:15 and it will be July 6th, 13th, August 3rd, and the 10th. There will be, I'm very happy to say, there will be a day camp this summer. There will be multiple sections for junior and for senior side. Since we have more junior campers, we've decided to open up 4 groups on the junior side and 1 group on the senior side. In doing this, we're able to accommodate everyone on the waiting list with a spot. So I'm very happy to say that. The dog run has water and is connected, and it's all open to the dogs, so that's good for the dogs. And I'm very pleased to say the bathrooms in Hampstead Park are now open to the public, and there's a monitor who's overseeing the cleaning and disinfecting, and I think that's great news for people who want to use the park. The Hampstead Day has been pushed to the fall, hoping that this summer we will be able to have some type of outdoor activity. Hopefully all this positiveness will continue, and as more and more people get vaccinated. We are hoping that maybe a movie in the park to be held in July and September, but this is again based on government COVID guidelines. And the concert series right now, we're waiting to hear what we are able to do. We're hoping that maybe we might be able to do a few of them. Definitely would not be able to do as all as we were hoping. The bands are ready to go if we think and feel that it's safe and that the government guidelines allow it. And for the time being, that is my report. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Edery.
Okay, quick updates. We had the 2020 year-end audit was completed. It was a very strange year because of COVID. As per the financial statements, we had a $3 million surplus, but that always needs to be looked at differently, carefully. You can't just say 3 million. Of the $3 million surplus, $1 million of that was our PTI line, which is built into the budget. The only reason it shows up as surplus is because it's only at the end of the year do we attribute it to the PTI. So it seems like surplus, but it's not really surplus. Another $1 million of that was a Quebec grant to offset COVID costs. And another 134,000 of that was a Montreal grant to offset COVID costs. So the net real, the 1 million and the 134,000 are part of our surplus, but the non kind of or the more recurring events come to about 866,000 if we account for the PTI line and the grants. The extra grants for COVID, so it's 866,000, which is about 3% of our overall budget. And the big differences there were an extra $98,000 in permits, $195,000 in transfer tax, more than we expected because prices are higher than usual. And unfortunately, we had an extra $43,000 in arrears interest because people were having some people had a harder time paying the taxes. But that $43,000 in arrears interest is higher, even though we decreased our interest on arrears in order to help people with the COVID payments. Accumulated surplus we're looking at was 6.9 million. If you take out the about 2 million in PTI, you're about 4.9 million. So roughly 5 million as of now for accumulated surplus. And then our total debt was 5.8 million, which breaks down as into two portions, that which is our own, which we have to finance, and that which is provincial government. So our own debt is 4.8 million, and the provincial side is 984,000. So the 4.8 million is what we have to finance, and this is prior to the 2021 PTI, which adds back another another 2 million there. So we're about 4.8. That's 6.8 million roughly. So that's with regards to the finance. And then the public works yard, where all the legal delays for the public works yard have expired. We're pretty much ready to go out to SEAO for the sale of the portion of the public works yard. The servitude has been signed. We've got meetings ongoing with the architect. Actually, there's one tomorrow morning with regards to redesign or a new design for the new public works building on the other side. And also we're looking at plans for extra storage for CSR at Hampstead Park. So these are all things that are going on simultaneously. It's a bit of a soup, but it's being done. That's about, I mean, there's a lot more as far as the details of the audit, but I'm not going to get too much into that. Just give you kind of the bottom line numbers. Is there anything else? Oh, and that's pretty much it for finance and public works yard reorg.
Thank you very much, Councillor Elfassi.
He's muted. Leon, you're muted.
Yeah, you're muted.
Yes, thank you. Sorry about that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the report for tennis is actually quite positive. After a rocking start of the season with the Guillermo fiasco, I can report to you and to the resident that the tennis club is actually doing quite well from all fronts. Is it from the way the club is running, the courts, the staff, the pros, everything seems to be really going well this year. And that also reflects on the membership. As we discussed before privately in the caucus meeting, we have right now about 211 members, and out of them, close to 140 or 135 are Hampstead resident, and the rest are non-resident. And we still have capacity for new members, which I thank most councillors and everybody to agree to open the membership to non-resident going forward. So that said, the league is also going very well on Wednesdays. Actually, Greg gets a record number of interest to play in the league on Wednesdays. And that is actually a very good sign, because that's what gets a club going. As for the question we was asked before about the reservation online, so as the mayor reported before, and I also replied on to the guy who asked the question, that we are not far away from having that reservation online, will be on our website. That's for that. We also are now in a process, in a final stage of the documents for the PTI for the tennis project. As you may know, all the residents are pretty much aware now that we're going to invest quite a bit of money this year to deal with the court surface and the irrigation and completely new lights in Hampstead Tennis. And hopefully we can add to that a little bit of renovation of the reception area. And I say hopefully, because I hope at one point we'll come to an agreement, because there is also a note that Richard Sun wanted to share with all of us that is there on the report. That said, so we're now not far from having that document ready, and then the town will issue that call for tender, so we can have this project going off the ground, hopefully in September. And the last item I can add is the staff this year. Our staff in recreation, they're unbelievable. I want to give a great word of encouragement to both Chandra and Ian for doing tremendous job with the tennis this year. And they really are on top of everything. And everybody in tennis are very happy with both of them. So on that note, I'd like to thank them on my behalf, and I'm sure on behalf of the entire council. That's about my report on tennis. And on the strategic development, it's only a comment, and it's not a debate. It's just a comment that I made, and I made it before, and I'd like to repeat it now with regards to the public zone redevelopment. I repeat it, I'm on board, I support, I voted for it, but I feel if we've been working 7 years and more to be ready to sell this piece of land, we can wait another 3, 4, 5 months to put it for sale. I think it'll be morally responsible for us to act carefully and only put that piece of land for sale after for the new council that will be elected by November. That's my opinion. I know I am in a minority, but at least I put it out there. Everybody knows me, what I have in my heart, I have in my mouth. So that's my position. If you guys vote to go ahead, I bless and I pray for a success for the town and for all of us. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I just want to mention one thing. You mentioned the number 211 members for tennis, but that's not exactly right. First of all, I think those numbers are approximately a week old, so the new numbers would be higher. Secondly, the 211 is season passes. I believe something like 9, it's more than that, over 100 of those are family memberships with an average of at least 3 members per family. So the true number of tennis members is much higher than 211. It would be somewhere between 300 and 400 members who are signed up and enjoying the tennis courts, which is great. It's probably somewhat similar to last year and the year before. And also, as Councillor Alfasi mentioned, effective today, in fact, we are now accepting non-residents who wish to get season passes, even if they were not members in 2020 and 2019. That was our previous rule. You had to be members in 2020 or 2019. Now it doesn't matter. We're to the same rules we had before COVID. So we welcome everybody. And as Councillor Alfasi said, it so far is proving to be a great season. And I want to also acknowledge and thank Chandra and Ian. As was pointed out quite correctly, they are doing a magnificent job, and not just with tennis, with the pool as well. And I'm sure when the day camp starts later this month, the same will be true there too. Okay, moving on, Councillor Goldwax.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. So a few of my portfolios, number one, is Public Works. I'd like to gladly report there's been no water main breaks in the past reporting period. This is due to the excellent work that we've done over the past 15, 16 years of relining and revamping our water lines. I recall in our little community meeting we had this past week, Councillor Eddery had mentioned that in the first and second mandate, that's all we were reporting was number of water main breaks and damages and insurance claims that went up. So I'm glad to see that the fruits of our labor are paying off. The green team has started to prepare the beds for plantation. Flowers be expected and will be planted shortly. Planning, as already discussed in the report, planning, preparation, and cleanup Public Works yard is ongoing for the sale. Aquadata has done an analysis and some of our water valves are not functioning, which would cause problems if there is a water main break. So Public Works, in conjunction with an engineer undertaking plans to replace the defective valves over the summer. As well, Public Works verifying infrastructure in a Public Works yard to verify functionality. Vehicle maintenance is ongoing and going well. Our recycling contractor, we do obviously contract garbage collection and recycling out. And of course, we do take complaints and comments from residents seriously. We've had to sometimes follow the contractor or follow up on issues. And happily or unhappily, we've had to actually fine the contractor for non-compliance with the recycling. So if there is something that you see amiss, please let us know and we will go back to the recycling or garbage contractor. We are going out to, in the next couple of weeks, requests for tender for the roads and sidewalks. So there's going to be a major investment of roads and sidewalk, and the tender will be going out in about a week or two. Public Works, of course, vaccines are rolling out, as Councillor Wiegensberg mentioned. Vaccines are rolling out to the younger individuals. So as more and more people are getting vaccinated, it's making the management of the scheduling of the Public Works crews, their shifts and their ability to put a number of people together a lot easier. And of course, it helps curtail any spread of this disease. Just a couple of points on IT, and I'll let Councillor Budning talk about some more. We are, as already stated by Councillor Fassi and the Mayor, we are looking to get that tennis, online tennis program launched, which make it a lot easier. The same thing with the new website, which will be up and running in a couple of weeks. The revamped website, an application for suggestions and complaints as well can be done online as well. And of course, like I said, the website that's coming up very shortly. The other portfolio I have is seniors. And although the vaccines are rolling out, people are still very susceptible and to transmitting, contracting COVID-19. I know personally of 3 seniors residents and long-term care facilities that had 3 facilities had major outbreaks where multiple residents were either infected and or hospitalized, even though they received the second vaccine. I will say gladfully, it was not the Waldorf or the site that I manage, it was other ones. But that being said, just because you're vaccinated, it does not mean you stop following directives of social distancing, washing hands, and wearing a mask. So I urge you, even if you have the second vaccine, people are still susceptible to either contract it or to transmit it. In the past 24 hours, there are 3 new cases in Hampstead. Lastly, as you see, I'm wearing orange, and my background has been changed to honor the students. Unfortunately, the students that were found, the Kamloops First Nation community that were in these graves, like in many other cities, we lowered our flags to half-mast in their honor, and our thoughts and our prayers go out to the families of that community and all Indigenous peoples throughout Canada. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I agree with your comments. Well, I agree with all your comments, but with respect to the residential school tragedy, Residents who want to read my message on the subject can go to the homepage of our website, and you will find a detailed message on that site. Councillor Bunning is back, or at least we can see him. So,
well, I've always been here. I'm just trying to get the stream going uninterrupted, so that's why I'm turning my camera off. I'll keep it relatively quick. The month of May 2021, we had 69 permits that were issued from the Urban Planning Department. Last year in the month of May, there were 38 permits, but here's the kicker. $871,000 of permitted work was issued in 2020. In 2021, 1.4 million. So our residents continue to reinvest in their properties, and we're glad to see that people are caring for their homes, and we can certainly see the construction ongoing in the community. Year to date, 128 permits were issued, and 134 inspections were done this month. 549 to date. So our Urban Planning Department continues to ensure that work is permitted and conforming to the permits, and that all work is being done safely and in a appropriate manner. Just to build upon what Councillor Goldwax had mentioned, from an IT perspective, we are continuing, and as was alluded to in question period, build out the online tennis and pool booking system, so residents can certainly look forward to that. As well, the new website is currently in development. The My Hampstead portal, residents are going to be able to access the water meter readers in very short order, where they will be able to input their the actual readings from their meters every single year moving forward. Additionally, the process is being enhanced for permits for construction, as well as a new functionality which was discussed at a recent town hall will be included, which is to file complaints for housing in multifamily dwellings, rentals, and so forth. So we're continuing to improve that functionality and ensure that the My Hampstead portal gives as much access and the best access to our residents as possible. Quickly, from a communication standpoint, they are working on the revamping of the website. The Urban Planning Department worked in coordination with Communications Department to create new flyers for regularly requested documents and information from the Urban Planning Department. Social media wise, we continuing to post information and topics of interest on all our social media channels, such that 11,000 people viewed posts of ours in the month of May. 1,700 of them reacted. So we're continuing to gain exposure on that front. And lastly, from a pool perspective, the pool is open for the 2021 summer. I hope that our residents take advantage of that amazing service that we have. And I certainly wish all of our lifeguards, CSR staff, and everybody a safe, enjoyable, but as I said, most importantly, safe summer. And to those residents that have pools in their backyards, please make sure that your gates are locked and that everything is as safe as possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And finally, but not least, but finally, Councillor Schaefer.
You're taking my remark there. That's the one I use. Finally, but not least. In any event, good evening, everyone. My two portfolios consist of legal and also public security. I want to thank our town clerk, Maitre Pierre Tapp, for his report on legal, and I am pleased to read it as follows. During this period, we had our regular assembly of the Municipal Council on May 3rd and also a special council meeting on May 25th. Both meetings were held virtually. Most of the clerk's work was done from his home office except for a few days which took place at my town hall office. As president of the elections, the clerk had to respond to many more questions from citizens regarding the upcoming elections in November 2021, and we have up to now 5 people who have expressed their interest in standing as a candidate in the said election. We have had discussions with our past suppliers for our procurement of equipment and professional resources in preparation for the upcoming election. In this regard, we have studied the new regulation relating to the holding of municipal elections in the special period of the pandemic, specifically about voting by correspondence. Mrs. Brenda Varden was sworn in as secretary for the municipal elections. She will assist me in my work as president of elections. We have had a few meetings and training sessions for this purpose. We are making our arrangements to allow advance polls for an additional day, that is on Saturday, October 30th, and voting will also be possible at the office of the President of the elections on November 3. Citizens will therefore have 4 days instead of 2 to exercise their right to vote, in addition to the possibility of postal voting for people aged 70 and over. The whole thing requires a greater organization, but we will be ready. We also had several exchanges with the clerks of other cities regarding the organization of these elections. We followed the development of government guidelines on the coronavirus crisis daily. We still discuss with different clerks from other towns regarding this delicate situation, and we are in contact with the clerks of other cities, and we share important logistics information. We are closely monitoring the modifications of the subdivision bylaw because it is necessary in order to proceed with calls for tenders for the sale of municipal land adjoining the town garage. The public notices were published and citizens had until May 20th at 4 p.m. to send their comments to town council. No written document was received on this file. The town clerk was always available to respond to requests from the various services of the municipality, whether by email, web conference, call, or direct calls. We had meetings with many subjects this month, including elections, town website, access to documents of the town, human resources topics, zoning, garage sale, and minor derogations. More particularly, we have been in daily contact with the head of many of our departments to resolve the various situations requiring our expertise on a day-to-day basis. We worked in collaboration on the development of the agenda for all May's council meetings and its follow-up. Thank you very much, Maitre Tapp. This was a very well-written report, and I really appreciate it. I'm sure so does council. My other portfolio consists of public security, and at this moment, Mr. Mayor, I think speaking on behalf of council and yourself, I would like to congratulate Lieutenant Roberts and his team of public security officers for the magnificent job they performed during particularly the past 2 weeks or past 3 weeks, where there were threats and fears of our citizens for what was going on with the anti-Semitic remarks, etc., etc. As we all know, Lieutenant Roberts led the public security team and did a magnificent job. So on behalf of council and yourself, Mayor, I want to extend kudos to Lieutenant Roberts, Thierry Huel-Gingras, the chief, as well as to all our public security officers. A great job, well done. For public security, Lieutenant Roberts wrote the following report. The COVID-19 situation is still ongoing. However, the outlook for positive change can be felt among members of the team and residents. The public security team continues to adapt well to the ever-changing provincial COVID restrictions. The team is preparing themselves for the spring-summer period, which will include a bike patrol, increased public security presence during the Shavuot due to anti-Semitic acts and online postings, increased presence in general throughout the town and at religious institutions. Overtime remains minimal at 100 hours for the entire department from the period of January 1st to May 15th. The majority of the overtime is for constables to attend court to testify for bylaw tickets issued. I'm sure Councillor Eddy would be satisfied with that as well. The low number of crime, either breaking and entering or theft of property, may be attributed to the COVID provincial government restrictions. Phone communications, including dispatch, had some difficulties on May 11, 2021, but was rapidly fixed by the contracted company. Between April 16, 2021 and May 15, 2021, Hampstead constables went to court for a total of 3 cases. However, all 3 resulted in postponements. Training of employees continue with 5 public security team members taking a baton, handcuff, and suspect control course on May 14th at the community center. Now, to just give you a brief outline, not to go into too many details, I will give our residents and our council members the following information. In the month of May, 218 parking tickets were issued, which is an increase of over 100% since in the month of April 2021, there were only 111 tickets issued. As for bylaw tickets issued, there were only 5, as compared to the month of April, which had none. Tickets for construction violations were only 5 tickets issued. No tickets for violations with respect to dogs, garbage, gardeners, and or long grass. And all in all, I would have to say that our public security, I don't want to be redundant, but I have to repeat myself because it's so important that the public appreciate how fantastic our public security is, and kudos to them all, including Lieutenant Roberts and Chief Cherry Holgingra. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to give you these 2 reports, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. I want to add one thing, though, that is important, and that is crime January through May has been almost non-existent. I won't say totally zero, but it's about as close to zero as we could possibly have had. And it is due to the curfew, the COVID curfew, and that's really the reason. But crime is going to come back. We don't have a lot of crime in Hampstead, even in the worst of times. Nevertheless, it's not zero. And there was one recent break-in at a home, and the alarm wasn't on. So please, there are some very important things that you can do. We have a whole bunch of tips on our website, but some of the most important: make sure your garage door is closed when you leave the house. Make it goes all the way down, doesn't bounce up. If the door is open, you're inviting a break-in, I guarantee it. Make sure you put on the alarm. Almost everybody has an alarm system. Put it on even if you're leaving the house for 5 minutes. And the third thing with respect to car thefts, I don't know how many people know at this point, more and more do, but if you leave your car outside and it has one of those electronic keys, thieves can pick up the signal. If your key is inside your house, your car is outside, they can pick up the signal and drive away with your car, unless you keep the keys in a pouch, or which you can get from Amazon, or a empty coffee tin. There are ways to prevent them from picking up the signal. But if you don't do it, the thieves are going to steal the signal and your car. We even have a video of it happening here in Hampstead, a real case. So those 3 things alone will greatly reduce your risk of crime. Again, I agree with Councillor Edery. Our public security is magnificent, in my opinion, the best on the island.
Councillor Schaefer.
Sorry, Councillor Schaefer. Yes, sorry about that, Councillor Schaefer. I agree with Councillor Schaefer. Our public security is the best on the whole island, as far as I'm concerned. The stories that we both know that have happened over and over are just incredible. But you have to help us. So take those precautions and you will not be the victim of a crime. Okay, moving on. We can now move on to the agenda. Let me just get get to the right spot. Coming up. Oops. Item 5.0. Adoption of the minutes of the regular council meeting held on May 3rd and the special council meeting held on May 25th. Motion of Councillor
Schaefer.
Schaefer, seconded by Councillor
Goldwax.
Goldwax. It is resolved that the minutes of the regular council meeting held on May 3rd, 2021, and of the special council meeting held on May 25th, 2021 are hereby approved as submitted. Anyone opposed? No. And that brings us to okay, 7.1, adoption of bylaw 1002-2 on motion of Councillor
Schaefer.
Goldwax.
Councillor Schaefer, seconded by Councillor Goldwax. It is resolved to approve bylaw number 1002-2 entitled bylaw modifying the cadastral operations zoning bylaw number 1002-1. Anyone opposed? That's adopted. Which brings us to 7.2, adoption of bylaw 795-10 on motion of Councillor
Schaefer,
Schaefer, seconded by Councillor Goldwax. It is resolved to approve bylaw number 795-10 entitled bylaw modifying bylaw number 795-2 regarding nuisance. Anyone opposed? No. I do want to mention what that one is about. There are two changes there that are important. One, noisy landscaping work on weekdays can no longer begin at 7 a.m. It can start earlier than 8 a.m. And the other change request any residents is that June 1st, which has already passed, through September 30th, gardeners no one can use gas-powered leaf blowers. No more gas-powered leaf blowers. As soon as I get the resolution, I will sign it. It should be in a day or two. And from that point on, we will not have to listen to those gas-powered leaf blowers. The gas-powered lawn blowers are still allowed, lawnmowers, but the gas-powered leaf blowers, no more. Okay, and that brings us to 7.3. Yep. This is adoption of bylaw 1020-1 on motion of Councillor
Schaefer,
Goldwax.
Schaefer, seconded by Councillor Goldwax. It is resolved to approve bylaw number 1020 entitled bylaw modifying bylaw number 1020 on contract management. Anyone opposed? Okay, no one's opposed, and that one has to do with the Quebec government asking us to give priority to Quebec government companies, priority but not exclusivity to Quebec companies when purchasing things or giving out contracts. 7.4 is the notice of motion. Notice of motion was given by Councillor Schaefer. That draft bylaw number 1031 entitled bylaw on the use and supply of potable water and administration of used water sewage services will be submitted to council for adoption, and all council members have received a copy of draft bylaw number 1031, and a motion to dispense with the reading of said bylaw was made. Anyone? Sorry, it's a motion. Okay. 7.5 is the adoption of the first draft of that bylaw on motion of Councillor
Schaefer,
seconded by Councillor Goldwax. It is resolved to approve the first draft of bylaw number 1031 entitled bylaw on the use and supply of potable water and administration of used water sewage services. Anyone opposed? Okay, that's adopted. And that brings us to okay, oops. A little further.
the out-of-court settlement.
7.6. Okay, on motion of Councillor
Schaefer,
Schaefer, seconded by Councillor
Edery.
I'm sorry. Edery. Okay, Edery. It is resolved that the town clerk, and in his absence, the assistant town clerk, be authorized to sign on behalf of the town the document entitled Mutual Release, Full and Final Discharge and Transaction in Superior Court File 500-17-103-272-186 of Quebec, a copy of which is attached to the present resolution. Anyone opposed? Okay, that's adopted. And that brings us to 7.7, approval of payment on motion of Councillor
Schaefer,
seconded by Councillor
Goldwax.
Goldwax. It is resolved that the municipal council accepts the payment of the share of the town of Hampstead in the guarantee fund of our group, which is established with all cost in the amount of $29,240.12, as it appears on the invoice 149295 of UMQ. Anyone opposed? Okay, it's adopted. 7.8. I will just announce that each member of council, having received a copy, the town clerk deposits the certificate following the registration procedure for voting on the bylaw number 1002-2 entitled Bylaw Modifying the Cadastral Operations Zoning Bylaw number 1002-1. The council takes note of the deposit of said certificate by the town clerk. What that means is that we made a couple of minor exemptions so that we could go ahead and sell the half of the public works yard, and nobody asked for a register, so there will be no register or referendum on that issue, which is not surprising given that the people who were eligible live in the area and should be extremely happy with this project. Okay, 7.9, approval of payment for the renewal of the town of Hampstead's liability insurance portfolio for the year 2021-2022 on motion of Councillor
Schaefer.
Schaefer is seconded by Councillor
Edery.
Edery. It is resolved that the town council approves the payment of $25,960.62 to BFL Canada Risk and Insurance Inc. for the renewal of the town's liability insurance portfolio for the year 2021-2022. Anyone opposed? No. That brings us to 8.1. I will just note that each member of council, having received a copy, the town clerk deposits the minutes of the regular planning advisory committee meeting held on May 10th, 2021. The council takes note of the deposit of said minutes by the town clerk. And moving on, we will start our urban planning items, which we have quite a few. 8.2. 5821 Ferncroft. Okay, on motion of Councillor
Budning,
seconded by Councillor
Regensburg.
It is resolved that the request to authorize an addition for a detached single-family dwelling located at 5821 Ferncroft and submitted to the Planning Advisory Committee meeting on May 10th, 2021 is conditionally approved as recommended by the PAC, provided that the walk-in closet must be eliminated on the upper level. The two dormers on the front facade must be separated by a roof section. The polyurethane panels are not acceptable. More conventional material must be presented to urban planning for approval. The color of the dormers must be the proposed project meets the prescribed standards of the zoning bylaw number 1001-2 and only partially meets the prescribed standards of the site planning and architectural integration program bylaw number 775. Anyone opposed? And the only comment there for people listening is you can see how detail-oriented our planning and advisory committee is. 8.3 concerning 5642 Queen Mary Road. Okay, I'll have a comment on this in a minute, but first, it was proposed by Councillor
Budning,
seconded by Councillor
Goldwax.
And resolved that the request for 4 minor exemptions to the zoning bylaw number 1001-2 for the property located at 5642 Queen Mary, lot number 2089468, Sonari 1 is refused. Anyone opposed? Okay, that's adopted. I just want to comment in case the owner is listening These minor exemptions relate to a previous version of the plan. The most recent version of the plan, which was worked out with our head of urban planning, will probably be approved by the council, but there is a different minor exemption that is required. Public notice for that will probably go up in a day or two, and after 2 weeks, we'll probably have a special council meeting where I anticipate adopting that minor exemption, and then the project will proceed. Okay, and that brings us to 8.4 concerning 30 Albion. It was proposed by Councillor
Budning.
Budning, seconded by Councillor
Goldwax.
Goldwax. And resolve that the request to authorize a second floor addition for a detached single-family dwelling located at 30 Chemin Albion and submitted to the Planning Advisory Committee meeting on May 10, 2020 is approved as recommended by the PAC. The proposed project meets the prescribed standards of the zoning bylaw number 1001-2 and only partially meets the prescribed standards of the site planning and architectural integration program bylaw number 775. Anyone opposed? No. And I think I can add that that's a very nice project, unique and nice. Okay, we come to 11 Heath Road on motion of Councillor
Budning.
Budning, seconded by Councillor
Goldwax.
Goldwax. It is resolved that the request to authorize the construction of a new detached single-family dwelling located at 11 Chemin Heath and submitted to the Planning Advisory Committee meeting on May 10, 2021 is deferred as recommended by the PAC. The proposed project only partially meets the prescribed standards of the zoning bylaw number 1001-2 and meet the prescribed standards of the site planning and architectural integration program bylaw number 775. Anyone opposed? And that's adopted. 8.6 concerns 195 Finchley. It was proposed by Councillor
Budning.
Budning, seconded by Councillor
Goldwax.
Goldwax, and resolved that the request for 3 minor exemptions to zoning bylaw number 1001-2 for the property located at 195 Finchley, lot number 2089164, zone RA2 is approved. Anyone opposed? Okay, no one opposed. I should mention that there are a number of minor exemption requests, and we have, with one exception, we have received no interventions from concerned parties. So if I've forgotten to mention that for each one, I'm mentioning it now. When we get to the one where there was an objection, I will mention it. We're not there yet. Okay, it brings us to 8.7, 178 Wexford. This is one that I really want to discuss with council, and unfortunately we didn't have a chance during our caucus meeting. So I will explain. It's okay, I'll explain for the public. This is oh no, I see that this is actually, this is not a minor exemption. This is the actual project. Okay, now we can continue, sorry. Okay, it was proposed by Councillor
Budning.
Budning, seconded by Councillor
Goldwax.
Ginsburg.
Goldwax, yeah, okay. And resolve that the request to authorize a second floor addition for a detached single-family dwelling located at 175 Wexford and submitted to the Planning Advisory Committee meeting on May 10th is deferred as recommended by the PAC. The proposed project does not meet the prescribed standards of the zoning bylaw number 1001-2 and meets the prescribed standards of the site planning and architectural integration program bylaw number 775. Anyone opposed? No. Okay. Okay, 8.8 having to do with number 2 Gayton. On motion of Councillor
Goldwax.
Goldwax, seconded by Councillor
Regensburg.
Budning, I think first. It is resolved that the request to authorize facades and modifications for a detached single-family dwelling located 2 Chemin Gayton and submitted to the Planning Advisory Committee meeting on March 8, 2021 is conditionally approved as recommended by the PAC, provided that wider windows should be used in order to improve the design, and the masonry frames around the proposed larger windows must match with the existing masonry frames with urban planning approval. The proposed project meets the prescribed standards of the zoning bylaw number 1001-2 and only partially meets the prescribed standards of the site planning and architectural integration program bylaw number 775. Anyone opposed? Case adopted. That brings us to 8.9, 49 Granville. Okay, this one, there was an objection filed. And the council has noted, and now we will move on with the actual resolution. It was proposed by Councillor
Goldwax.
By Councillor Budning, seconded by Councillor Goldwax, and resolved that the request for 2 minor exemptions to zoning bylaw number 1001-2 for the property located 49 Chemin Granville, lot number 2088897, zone RA2 is approved. Okay, anyone opposed? No. Okay, so that's adopted. 8.10 having to do with 5801 Ferncroft. Okay, it was proposed by Councillor
Budning.
Budning, seconded by Councillor
Goldwax.
Goldwax. And resolved that the request for 3 minor exemptions to zoning bylaw number 1001-2 for the property located 5801 Chemin Ferncroft, lot number 2089244, zone RA2 is approved. Anyone opposed? That's adopted. Brings us to 8.11, having to do with 5719 Queen Mary. Okay, it was proposed by Councillor
Budning.
I'm going to say seconded myself if the actual resolution is corrective, because when I understand we're not refusing it, we're accepting it. This is the request with the wall due to the wheelchair.
Is that the one, Councillor Goldwax? I thought that was a different. I thought that was a different house on the other side of the street.
No, this is the one corner of Queen Mary. Unless I'm.
I thought you were. I thought you were referring to a house on the other side of that corner.
No, it's the corner house. It is the corner house. I'm just going to go to the plans on the expanded package. Bear with me. It's 8.
I want to point out, we didn't have a chance, I don't think, I'm not sure if we had a chance to discuss this in caucus, but there are 2 minor exemption requests over here. And yes, I do think this is the one with the wheelchair issue. One of them was recommended by the PAC to refuse, and one of them was recommended by the PAC to approve. But correct. Council, of course, can approve both if we wish.
I'm just looking at the 811 on the expanded package. I'm looking at the drawing 5719. Oh, maybe I'm mistaken on the. Oh, hang on a second. 5719 is a corner of Fleet. No, that is the one. That is the one. That is the one with the project being done by Northstone where the homeowner needs access for a wheelchair for to get into the back.
Okay. No. So I'm okay if we approve both. One of the two, as the mayor had mentioned, was to be approved by the PAC anyways and council. So the other one is certainly an extenuating circumstance with handicap access.
Okay, there. So I'm going to assume that that's what the council wants. So I'll read them that way. If somebody doesn't want, you'll need to object. Okay, we're at, whoops, let me get back to it, 811. Okay, 5719 Queen Mary, first of two minor exemptions, two separate resolutions. On motion of Councillor
Goldwax.
Goldwax, seconded by Councillor
Budning.
It is resolved that the request for the minor exemption to zoning bylaw number 1001-2 for the property located at 5719 Chemin Queen Mary, lot number 2089455, zone RA1 is approved. Anyone opposed? Okay, so that's adopted. The next one is the same address, but a second minor exemption. One of them had to do with the green space between the walkway and the driveway, and the other one has to do with the width of the driveway, I think. Okay. This is the other one on motion of Councillor
Goldwax.
Goldwax, seconded by Councillor
Wiggensberg. Sorry.
Wiggensberg, I think. Okay, and resolved that the request for minor exemption zoning bylaw number 1001-2 for the property located at 5719 Chemin Queen Mary, lot number 2089455, zone RA1 is approved. Anyone opposed? Okay, so we've approved those things. They really are minor exemption, and there are very extenuating circumstances. Okay, 813 is 30 Merton on motion of Councillor. Budning, seconded by Councillor
Wiggensberg.
It is resolved that the request to authorize facade modifications for a detached single-family dwelling located at 30 Merton Crescent and submitted to the Planning Advisory Committee meeting on April 12, 2021 is deferred as recommended by the PAC. The proposed project does not meet the prescribed standards of the zoning bylaw number 1001-2 and only partially meets the prescribed standards of the Site Planning and Architectural Integration Program bylaw number 775. Anyone opposed? Okay, that's adopted. That brings us to 814. Having to do with 5658 Harrow. It's minor exemption, and there were no interested parties commenting. So on motion of Councillor
Budning,
seconded by Councillor
Schaefer.
It is resolved that the request for a minor exemption to zoning bylaw number 1001-2 for the property located at 5658 Chemin Harrow, lot number 2090104, zone RB4 is approved. Anyone opposed? No. That's adopted, and that brings us to 8.15, 23 Ellerdale. More minor exemptions, and again, no interested parties. It was proposed by Councillor
Budning,
seconded by Councillor
Schaefer.
And resolved that the request for two minor exemptions to zoning bylaw number 1001-2 for the property located at 23 Chemin Ellerdale, lot number 2088725, zone RE1 is approved. Anyone opposed? That's adopted. And that brings us to 8.16, 5 Northcote. And it was proposed by Councillor
Budning,
Budning,
Goldbach.
second by Councillor Goldbach. And resolved that the request for 2 minor exemptions to zoning bylaw number 1001-2 for the property located at 5 Chemin Northcote, lot number 2089090, zone RA1 is refused. Anyone opposed? No. Adopted. It's 8.17, 91 Stratford. On motion of Councillor.
Sorry, I was on mute. Budning.
Budning, seconded by Councillor
Wiegensberg.
Wiegensberg. It is resolved that the request authorized the construction of a new detached single-family dwelling located at 91 Chemin Stratford and submitted to the Planning Advisory Committee meeting on April 12, 2021 is deferred as recommended by the PAC. The proposed project does not meet the prescribed standards of the zoning bylaw number 1001-2 and only partially meets the prescribed standards of the site planning and architectural integration program bylaw number 775. Anyone opposed? Okay, nobody's opposed. I will mention this has been here a few times. There are certain unique things about this project. Our urban planning department is doing additional research, and we hope to have some type of recommendation so we can move on with this file and some other similar files that haven't necessarily reached us yet, but we know they're coming. 8.18 is 14 Merton Crescent. And I think I'll have a comment on this one as well. But first, let's do the business. It was proposed by Councillor
Budning.
Budning, seconded by Councillor. Seconded by Councillor. I need a seconder. Well, we can't have the motion if.
Sorry, it was mute. Edery.
Seconded by Councillor Edery. Okay. And resolved that the request for a minor exemption to zoning bylaw number 1001-2 for the property located at 14 Merton Crescent, lot number 2088911, zone RA1 is refused. Anyone opposed? Okay. Now I believe that the owner over here is going to come up with another proposal that does not require a minor exemption and will be granted a permit, because if there's no minor exemption, the permit will be issued. In fact, the permit may have already been issued for all I know. So this one won't be coming back anymore, I don't think. Okay. 8.19, 7 Kilbourne. I believe Councillor Schaefer wants to.
I'd like this. 7 Kilbourne is the resident of my son Ian Schaefer, and therefore I will not participate in the vote.
Okay, thank you. So for everybody else, it was proposed by Councillor
Budning.
Budning, seconded by Councillor
Wiegensberg.
And resolved that the request for the 2 minor exemptions to zoning bylaw number 1001-2 for the property located at 7 Chemin Kilbourne, lot number 2088888, zone RA1 is approved. Anyone opposed? Okay, so that's adopted.
I'd just like to make
And I will mention.
Bill,
I'm sorry?
I'd just like to make a note that the reason we're approving this is something that's part of a package of minor derogation, like changes to minor derogations that we're making. So given that we're going to be getting rid of a lot of things that currently require minor derogation requests, and this is one of those things, then we thought no point holding it up if it's something that we're planning on doing anyways. So we're streamlining the whole minor derogation request process to get rid of a lot of stuff that really should not require minor derogations, and this is one of those things.
Yeah, correct. And I was just going to say, since I've had a choppy internet, I normally explain every minor exemption, but it seems almost every file tonight did have a minor exemption request. A lot of them were rejected. The ones that were approved were, to the most part, just legalizing existing situations. There was one specific one where we allowed somebody to put a door for a basement unit under the driveway and in line with the perpendicular to the front facade instead of building it out. And otherwise, it was allowing minor exemptions for things, as Councillor Edery said, are going to be changed in the bylaw in the very near future.
Yeah, and I was going to say all that, or at least some of that. Just to make clear, we're not getting rid of things just so that we don't get minor exemption requests. That will be a happy outcome, but we are making changes because the council has discussed these things, or will finish discussing them, and have concluded that that really our bylaw is too strict. Well, the most recent one, with the size of the cabana, Westmount allows, I believe, 20 square meters in size, or maybe it's 60, I can't remember. No, it's 60, sorry, 60 square meters. This particular request is for 15. Our current bylaw says only 10. Well, obviously 10 is just too small. And we know there are a number of cabanas that are larger than 10 square meters. So taking both of those into consideration, looking at other bylaws, looking at what people have done, sometimes with minor exemptions, sometimes without, and putting it all together, plus other factors, is why we approve this particular request. And many of the other changes will all have to do with secondary front yards, where people are, I mean, people like having corner lots, but there are some disadvantages, and given what has happened in the town, we've concluded that we can liberalize the bylaw with respect to that. So there'll be quite a few changes based on what we've discovered, and the result is many things will not require minor exemptions. Residents will not have to pay money for minor exemptions. The PAC won't have to spend time discussing them, but they're all reasonable adjustments to our bylaws. So that's coming up in hopefully the not too distant future. We're at 9.1, approval of disbursements for the month of May on motion of Councillor Goldblack, seconded by Councillor
Edery.
Edery. It is resolved that the disbursements for the period from April 16, 2021 to May 15, 2021 in the total amount of $1,053,434.79 are hereby approved. Anyone opposed? Okay. Okay, 9.2. Payment of the second installment of the town's Montreal agglomeration fees, taxes, whatever. On motion of Councillor
Edery.
Edery, second by Councillor Goldblack. It is resolved that the town of Hampstead pays the second installment dated September 1st, 2021 in the amount of $5,687,652 for its share of expenses in the 2021 operations of the Montreal agglomeration. That Treasury Certificate number 2101, dated February 1st, 2021, has been issued by the town's treasurer, attesting to the availability of funds to cover the described expenses. Anyone opposed? Okay, that's adopted. And brings us to 9.3. This time it's a payment to the CMM on motion of Councillor
Goldblack.
Edery, seconded by Councillor Goldblack. It is resolved the town of Hampstead pays the second installment dated July 15, 2021 in the amount of $115,848 for their share of expenses for the 2021 operations of the CMM. That Treasury Certificate number 2102 dated February 1st, 2021 has been issued by the town's treasurer attesting to the availability of the funds to cover the described expenses. Anyone opposed? Okay, that's adopted. 9.4 appropriation of or transfer of funds from unappropriate surplus. On motion of Councillor
Battery.
Schaefer.
Edery, seconded by Councillor Schaefer, is resolved. The town council approves the transfer of funds as further detailed in the following table in the amount of $1,132,500 from the unappropriate surplus to appropriate surplus account 55,992,000,000. And the nature of the expense, I think we've agreed to call it a capital reserve fund, if I'm not mistaken, and the amount is $1,132,500. Anyone opposed? No. Okay, that's adopted. And that brings us to 9.5. I'll just announce, in accordance with section 105-.2 of the Cities and Towns Act, the town treasurer hereby deposited the financial report and the external auditor's report for the 2020 fiscal year. So that's just an announcement. Oh dear, 9.5A. My package doesn't seem to have it. Does somebody have 9.5? Oh no, that's just the report. Okay, never mind. 10.1. Granting of a contract on motion of Councillor
Goldwax.
Schaefer.
Seconded by Councillor Schaefer. It is resolved that the following quotation for the following contract be and is hereby approved. The holds more amply delineated hereunder. It goes to 160676 Canada Inc., which is Pepiniere Massachusetts, for the supply of trees, $85,075. With taxes, it comes to $98,619.81. Anyone opposed? That's adopted. 11.1. Okay, it's approval of hiring. It was proposed by Councillor
Schaefer.
Seconded by Councillor
Goldwax.
And resolved to approve the permanent hiring of Mr. Danny Oliver Rosero as Public Security Officer, subject to the usual conditions and in accordance with the provisions of the collective agreement between QP Local 429 and the Town of Hampstead. Anyone opposed? No.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to tell the public that Danny Rosero is a great addition to our public security team.
Okay, and I know you've elaborated on that in caucus as well. Okay, meaning you gave us more details. Okay, great. Okay, we're at 11.2, approval of the hiring list of white-collar student employees. It was proposed by Councillor
Budning.
Wiggensberg, seconded by Councillor
Budning.
And resolved that the town council approves the hiring of white-collar student employees as detailed on the list from the Community Services and Recreation Department. The hiring is subject to the usual conditions and in accordance with the provisions of the collective agreement between QP Local 429 and the Town of Hampstead. Anyone opposed? Okay, that's adopted. That brings us to 11.3, approval hiring list of blue-collar auxiliary employees for community services. It was proposed by Councillor
Wiggensberg.
seconded by Councillor Budning. Okay. Yeah. Okay. And resolved that the town council approves the hiring of blue-collar auxiliary employees detailed on the list from the Community Services and Recreation Department. The hiring is subject to the usual conditions and in accordance with the provisions of the collective agreement between QP Local 301 and the Town of Hampstead. Anyone opposed? No, and that brings us to 14.3. Would someone like to move adjournment?
Goldberg.
Motion of Councillor Goldberg, seconded by Councillor. Okay, a motion of
Schaefer.
Councillor Goldberg, seconded by Councillor Schaefer. It is resolved that the council meeting is adjourned. Anyone opposed? Okay, we are done. We have managed to lose all attendees except for 4. I'll take credit for that, and maybe the hockey game. Councillors, do we resume caucus?
Nope.
Or do we go? Does anyone know if the hockey game is still on?
There's 10 minutes left in the
I
third
don't-
period. I'm not saying the score because Councillor
it
Bunting
started.
doesn't want to hear it, but there's 10 minutes left.
Okay, could we go back to caucus?
I have
A
nothing to
brief
discuss.
caucus?
Nope.
Well, Richard, it does have stuff to discuss.
Well,
Okay.
we reconvene in 20 minutes after the game. How about that?
No,
I don't care. I don't mind watching the end of the game. So I'll tell you what, we're leaving here.
Oh, Richard said
and,
nothing urgent. Richard said nothing urgent.
Nothing urgent? Okay,
And he
fine.
just texted.
In that, okay, fine. In that case, we're done. No caucus. Everyone can watch the rest of the game. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Oh, we're up to one more attendee. Maybe the game's over. I don't know. Okay,
10 minutes.
thank you, everyone, for coming. And that wraps up our meeting. Be safe and bye, everyone.
good night, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Good night, everyone. Stay safe.
night,
Thank you very
everyone.
much.
Thank you all.
Good night, everyone.